NATO ready to strike terrorist groups in Afghanistan from distance if needed. NATO does not rule out strikes against international terrorist groups from distance if they try to establish themselves in Afghanistan, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg told a news conference after a meeting of the North Atlantic Council on Afghanistan on Tuesday. The agreement that the United States made with Taliban last year in February 2020 was an agreement that the United States agreed to end its military presence in Afghanistan, and NATO allies agreed to that and follow the U.S. decision. But at the same time, the Taliban agreed to make sure that Afghanistan not once again becomes a platform for international terrorists to organize, plan, terrorist attacks against NATO-allied countries, Stoltenberg said. And of course, we expect the Taliban to live up to those commitments. And we also will watch that very closely. And NATO allies will remain vigilant, and we have the capabilities to strike terrorist groups from distance if we see that terrorist groups again, trying to establish themselves, and plan, organize attacks against the NATO-allied countries. We have seen that, NATO allies have those capabilities, and they are also of course available to be used in Afghanistan, if needed, strike against those groups from distance, the Secretary-General stressed. One of the main achievements of NATO allies over these 20 years is actually that we have been able to really fight and destroy terrorist groups in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda is hardly existing, is much weaker today than it was when we started our military operation, Stoltenberg added. After the United States announced the end of its armed operation in Afghanistan and began to withdraw its troops, the Taliban, a radical movement outlawed in Russia, launched a large-scale offensive on the government army and by August 15 entered Kabul after meeting no resistance. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said he was resigning to avoid bloodshed and fled the country. Western nations are evacuating their citizens and embassy employees.